Hi, I'm Jennifer Podemski, and I wanted to just give you a little bit of an insight to us as Native people. We don't love land acknowledgements. We don't love listening to them, and we usually don't present them in our own ceremonies or gatherings. So I wanted to offer something special, and that is an action item that will amplify your work as an ally and bring more attention to the work that I'm doing at the Shine Network, which is a not-for-profit organization serving Indigenous women in the screen sector. So we've created a course, the first one of its kind in the world. It's a cultural sensitivity course for the Canadian screen sector, and it's available for free at theshinenetwork.ca. It's called PACT, and I would love for you to take it. And that's my land acknowledgement. This is an actionable way you can showcase your allyship.
Hey, firecrackers, it's Naomi, and welcome to the Firecracker Department. Today on the show, we have my good friend Diana Francis, who I've known forever since like our improv days in Vancouver. Diana is a comedian, a writer, an improviser, a producer, a show host writer. She can do anything. And she started this, I don't know, journey, shall we call it, in Vancouver at the Vancouver Theatre Sports League, where she got really good at improv. And then she co-founded the comedy collective Rock, Paper, Scissors that we talk about in my interview with her. She's been nominated for 8 Canadian Comedy Awards, including the Best Female Improviser, and she also won Best Sketch Group in 2008 with Canadian Content. She won Best Writing in Animation for her work on Corner Gas, and she's been nominated for a Writers Guild of Canada Award for Best Writing in Comedy. Diana is a graduate of the Canadian Film Centre's Primetime TV writing program, and along with Corner Gas, she has written on shows like The Debaters and Still Standing. Her film script, The Burning Season, won Best Screenplay at both the Whistler Film Festival and the Canadian Film Festival, and secured the Writers Guild of Canada Award for Best Screenplay in 2024. Oh my gosh, so much, so much. Put it in your brain that if you have a chance to see her perform in Girls Night Out, which is a comedy show that tours, or maybe you're in Mexico and you want to see Leave It to Cleavage, you gotta go see it. You gotta. She's one of the funniest people I know. All right, here's my chat with Diana Francis. I was doing some research on you, my friend Diana Francis, of course, as you do, because I'm a profesh. And I was thinking that I've only known you in comedy. Like I've never seen, like you've never been one of those people. And you know, in our community, there's some people that are like, oh, I'm in comedy, but I also do this to make money. Or like I've only known you in comedy as a writer, as a performer, and as a comedy business person.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I feel like we know each other as
Oh
friends.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Although,
no, no. Friend's a given, a given, a given. No, I've never known you as a friend. No, I have to actually, before we even get into that stuff, I have to recognize the impact that you make on my career. And I have to tell the story. And I tell the story
okay.
almost so much that I'm sure people are like, we heard the one about Diana Francis. But I remember being on the verge of breaking up with improv. And I was living in Vancouver. It was such a boys' club. It was so disheartening. It wasn't the joyful, playful world that I thought it would be. And I was at an audition, and because you and I have blonde hair, we were at a lot of the same auditions. And you were like, "How's it going?" And I said, "Not great. I think I'm gonna quit." And you were like, "Don't quit. What are you doing?" It might have been that night. "What are you doing tonight? Come to the Urban Well. Come and do improv." And I was like, oh, okay. Urban Well started my comedy cocktails where I would have a coffee because it was like at 9, 10 o'clock at night. And then I would get there and be so nervous to have a beer, which became comedy cocktails. And
Yeah.
then I didn't look back. I found like the people that I cared about at the Urban Well that were supportive, like Ellie Harvey, and like Roman, like telling me to keep going. And I was like, okay, I'll keep going. So if it hadn't been for you, I don't know.
Well, I got to pay that backwards a little bit
Okay.
because that does come from Ellie Harvey.
I
So
know.
the way that theater sports was such a weird enigma when I first started in the late 80s, I'm not entirely sure how or why it kind of got set up this way, but it was such a boys' club. It was very
Yeah.
male dominated. And it kind of became this place where there could be one queen bee
Yeah.
There could be one woman at top.
Yeah.
And that woman that was at the top usually, the shit trickled downhill to the women underneath, and the women weren't treated very well.
Yeah.
And as much as I hated being the one getting shit rolled on, I also understood, like, when you're the only one that's got any power in the room, it's really hard to let go of any of that power. You want
Mm.
to just hang on to it because it's such a tenuous feeling to be amongst all of these boys and
Yeah.
be the one woman that they respect.
Yeah.
So that happened for several generations for a couple of different women where they would be the woman on top and then they would leave and then the next woman would
Yeah.
rise up and be equally as difficult to the women underneath until it got to Ellie. And then when Ellie was the queen bee at theater sports, she took the two people who were that I remember being sort of underneath her, which were myself and Nancy Robertson. And
Yeah.
she basically pinned us down and was like, break the cycle of abuse.
Yes.
Like, send the elevator back down. Don't be a dick. Support up and coming improvisers, regardless of their gender, but especially if they're women. And I really took that to heart. And
Hmm.
then I think I stuck around in improv a lot longer. Nancy, of course, got corner gas and then moved away from the entire improv sphere. But then I never really got to that same level of queen bee status at theater sports for a lot of other political reasons. But regardless, I tried really hard, even through urban improv and other things that I did, to,
Yeah.
send the elevator back down.
Yeah.
And
No, Ellie, I'll tell the Ellie Harvey story forever. In fact, I'm going to interview her coming up. So I'm going to find out. This is a good two-parter. Like, I'm going to find out
yeah.
why. Like, because I think you're right about the queen bee level. Like, there used to be, if it was an improv group, it was men and a woman.
Hmm.
And, like when we did a show called Carnegie Hall, we made fun of it because it'd be like, it was Matt Barron, Ron Peterson, Chris Gibbs, and the woman,
Yeah.
as a joke. But
Yeah.
it was for a very long time. And Ellie Harvey, I remember stepping off the stage. Remember that tiny little stage at the Urban Well, where there was always a row of black tape for Pierce's mustaches
Yeah.
collection. And and then I stepped off and she looked at me and she was like, great offers, great characters. Which are
Yeah.
two things, like also, like, to give a compliment like that. It's not like, great job.
Hmm.
It's like, okay, I think I'm doing something right that I can build on,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And yeah,
Yeah.
I think she's a game changer, that Ellie Harvey.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
really is. And she
Yeah.
puts her money where her mouth is. And, she keeps saying that she's retired from improv, and I keep trying to pull her back in.
Do you think you could ever, like, I remember Matt saying that too. He's like, I don't think I'll be improvising in my 60s or whatever. And I was like, really? I don't think I'll ever retire. Do you?
Well, it's funny with theater sports because we never really had to leave until the pandemic happened, and they
Right.
they got hit with a lot of the similar things that a lot of the comedy companies got hit with as far as inequity in casting, and then they had a whole regime change. But up until then, there were people who had been at theater sports for like 30 years.
I
Because
know.
unlike Second City, it wasn't like you had a cast that was being paid an equity wage per week and you could pay your rent and move on. At theater sports, we were one of the only improv companies that were actually paid anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge.
It was still like 32.50 a show. And so you weren't making a prominent living there unless you were doing all the corporate events as well. But it meant that you could do other things and come back, and people never really left.
Yeah.
Um, so I think for a lot of us Vancouverites, it really uh, created this world of like never leave. And then Ellie was the one who's saying to people like me, like, leave. You
Yeah.
need to leave room and like make room for somebody else to come up.
Yeah.
Um, and then I just left the city.
And then I didn't just leave that. I left the city. But wait, I mean, you started Urban Well, didn't you? Like, that
I
was
did, yeah. Well, that
like
was
that
Roman,
was
yeah.
the only game in town.
Yeah, there was back in the day there was theater sports was the big cheese, and then I actually became a part of Rock Paper Scissors, which was a
Yeah.
bit of the spin-off because theater sports wasn't paying anybody a living wage, but they were also kind of holding you hostage to this nebulous conflict of interest
Right.
policy that they had, which
Yeah.
is we can't pay you what you're worth, but also don't go do what you love to do anywhere else for
Yeah.
money. They knew that they weren't in a position to be able to make it a black and white policy. So it was always gray and nebulous. And it's part of the reason why I never really rose to the top of the queen bee pile at theater sports because I was doing rock, paper, scissors
Yeah.
and getting more experience doing corporate improv and running a business And because I was the official opposition, just politically, it didn't sit well. So I
Yeah.
left for many years and then came back again later. And then Urban Improv was
Yeah.
its own Monday night. Like the Urban Well was one of the few comedy clubs in Vancouver that was doing really well. It was independent, so it was just a restaurant. And on Monday nights it was improv. On Tuesday night, Brent Butt was doing the stand-up comedy, and it was a huge deal for about 10 or 15
Yeah.
years.
Huge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Robin
yeah,
Williams popped in.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But you were one of the few people too to start a business, to see like improv not only as an artistic craft, but that it could also be a business, which,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I learned that from theater sports,
yeah,
to be honest. Like,
yeah,
I was taking what they had taught me, but they weren't paying me to do the work that they had taught me. So I was like, oh, right, I'm going to go
yeah,
do it over here then. But
yeah.
it really was the thing that gave me the confidence and the producing skills to be able to branch out. And thank God, because the skills that you learn as a theater producer, as you know, whether it's
Huge.
improv or theater or short films, they are skills that can translate into so many different areas of work. And especially when our work is so feast and famine,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, thank God I have all these other skills to fall back on.
Do you know, that's funny. You're saying that right now. And I think actually that was a huge influence to me too, because I did see that you were starting a business and that's also one of the things we can do, we should do to, as you said, like spin plates so that there's not just like,
Hmm.
well, if I'm not performing at theater sports this week, I'm not performing,
Yeah, yeah,
which makes me
exactly.
nuts. Like when I
Yeah.
see people that are just waiting for people to give them opportunities as opposed to creating them. And you were like creating corporate opportunities, you were doing like full improvised plays at the arts club. Do you remember like that shift of, oh no, I have to do rock, paper, scissors?
I remember two things. I remember having an acting agent and hating waiting for people to hire me. I hated
Yeah.
it. I hated auditioning and hated waiting for people to hire me. And then I also remember when I was around 28 years old and I was doing theater sports, I was doing their school tours, I was, opening their main stage shows, but not getting enough corporate events. So then I sort of took over the corporate side of rock, paper, scissors and built that up. And then I was doing the odd television thing here and there. And I remember brushing my teeth one day and thinking like, oh, I've got to put in my availability next week for waitressing at the King's Head. And I was like, oh, I'm not available next week. Oh, I'm not available next month. Oh, and then I've got that other tour. And then I've got Twisted Christmas Carol coming up at the Arts Club. Oh, and then I don't need to waitress anymore. And that moment, I
Nice.
remember being in my, like, brushing my teeth and just being like, oh, I don't need the day job anymore. And that was
Yes.
a great feeling.
I
And boy,
love that.
I burned that bridge so hard. It was like, I, I was like, don't ever let me come back to this restaurant again.
Did you go up a guns a blazing? Like, did you go in and be like, and by the way,
I think I want to say I sent an email, but I don't even think emails were around then. I think I left them a note. Or I think I called and
yeah,
left a voicemail and was just like, I'm done.
so
Yeah.
long, suckers. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's almost good though that you burned the bridge so that you're like, I can't go
I
back.
can't go back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there
Did
were
you?
some lean years,
Yeah.
but I made it through.
I mean, that's just it. Like, was so rock, paper, scissors was designed to do it all, or was it designed to focus on corporate first and then you happen to get into the other stuff?
It was a little bit of both. We made our bread and butter doing 4 or 5 corporate events a month, which was really good.
Yeah,
And was
that is
paying the bills.
amazing.
It was also a time too in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s where there were a lot of corporate event companies who were the middlemen between the talent and the client.
Right.
So if you got in with a couple of those event companies and got on their roster, they knew that you could do the customized improv that was still relatively new to the clients at that time. So
Yeah.
Theater Sports was doing it, Rock Paper Scissors was doing it, Roman was doing it, but that was kind of it in Vancouver. And it was a new shiny alternative to corporate stand-up, where you're going to get what the stand-up is written.
Right.
Like it's not about your company, whereas with improv, you could customize it.
Yeah.
So Rock, Paper, Scissors actually started before I even joined. It started as a sketch comedy spin-off by a bunch of rookies at Theater Sports. And then they just kind of kept going, and then fell apart. And the few people stuck together and started doing the odd corporate thing. And then when I came in, I joined David C. Jones, and we incorporated the company with another woman, Leanne Reagan, who was a corporate trainer.
Oh,
So she was
nice.
focusing on a lot of the humor in the workplace.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, which was also relatively new at the time. And then that allowed us to have the freedom to be able to do things like take a Twisted Christmas Carol and do it as an equity co-op at the Jericho Arts Center and do it however we wanted to do it. And so we made this massive production that was partly scripted, partly improvised, but had all of these huge elements for an improv show,
Yeah.
like a giant puppet head for the Ghost of
I
Christmas
know. How did you get
Past. And
funding for that?
it was an equity co-op. We just paid for it ourselves because of our corporate work.
So you had like a kitty that you were able to go and be like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
And
that's
then because
incredible.
we ran it as an equity co-op, so we just basically split the door and
Yeah.
after expenses. And then that got picked up by the Arts Club, by the Belfry, by Fire Hall Theater. And then at the same time, we did the complete works of William Shakespeare, which I directed. And it was the first time that had been done in Vancouver. So again, we did it as an equity co-op at the Jericho Arts Center, just did it however we wanted to do it. And
Yeah.
then that got picked up by the Arts Club and toured a whole bunch. And so it was this
Yeah.
real fun time of learning how to do all of that in those years when you have the energy to like there were days where we were doing Twisted Christmas Carol at the Fire Hall that I
I
was
know.
in, and then I was directing the complete works of William Shakespeare at the Arts Club that they were rehearsing and running at the same time. And we had to
Yeah.
rejig the schedules so that basically I could do two 8-hour rehearsals. It was
I know.
bonkers.
I
Like
know. It's so
so
exciting.
fun.
Like
So
I
fun.
remember, I remember what was that? Oh yeah, I remember doing kids theater during the day and then biking up to the Tarragon and doing a show every
Hmm.
night.
Hmm.
And just like, I mean, I wrecked my voice. I like, but at the same time, I was never,
But it's the
it's
things
the
that you
best time
should
of your
be
life.
doing if you want to be in the arts in your 20s is learn how to produce, learn how to
Yeah.
direct, learn how to do the lighting, do the props, do the costumes, like learn all of that stuff
Yeah.
because it does serve you later.
So what do you think? What was the learning curve like for you? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like learning curves are like this, and then you plateau for a while. You're like, what? Like I'm on a learning curve right now, but like
What's the
it's
learning
not
curve you're on right now?
TV film producing,
Ah, yeah,
show
yeah,
running. Yeah. But then
yeah.
I feel like the next time I do that, it'll be another learning curve because the rules will have changed. Do you know what I mean? Like the people will change, the DNA will change. So even if you learn how to produce the Twisted Christmas Carol for that time, for that theater, you're going to pr
Hmm.
produce the exact same show over here, and it's going to be
Hmm.
completely different.
Yeah.
So what was your learning curve like?
I mean, that's such a good question. And it's such a weird thing to think back on and go, what was the learning curve like? Because you just did it. Um, I do
Yeah,
remember thinking with the directing of Complete Works of William Shakespeare back then, it was the only thing I'd ever directed before. And I realized that I had been asked to do it to basically be a puppet director because my business partner kind of wanted
right.
just to have somebody that they could puppet, and then I wasn't dancing for him. So the learning curve there was speaking up and having my own voice and going like, no, no, you've hired me to do a job. I'm going to do the job. And I'm not just your puppet that you've put into a position.
Right.
So there was a lot of, I think, more learning about speaking up for myself. And
Man, I wish I'd learned that one ages ago.
oh, still learning.
Right?
Still
Ugh.
constantly the lesson that never goes away. Yeah.
I wonder if there's
And
ever like a discussion with a man that we're like, I really need to speak up for myself more.
where dudes say that.
Yeah. Said no dude ever.
And then I think that most of the learning curves were less about the work and more
Yeah.
for me about the interpersonal relationships
Yeah.
and how to manage people and how to manage stressful situations and drama amongst a bunch of very dramatic people.
So what were your key takeaways? I know you're like reliving this, but at the same time, I do think that like anybody I've talked to about producing or show running, they're like it's a huge part of people management.
It is a huge part of people management, and power is an interesting position to be in. So if you're show running a TV show, your power is very clear, right? But when you're doing something as a cooperative between people, you're supposed to have an equitable amount of work between the people, but
Right.
you're the only one who's doing the work because you're probably the only woman in the group. You don't have any power, but you're doing all of the work that the powerful person should be doing. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so there is such a difference between working in an environment like film or television where it's almost set up like a military hierarchy where it is very clear who's in charge,
Right.
right? Whereas what I learned in my early days of producing sketch comedy or producing tours or producing these types of shows is that I was the person who was in charge, but I wasn't necessarily the person who was in power because my voice wasn't powerful enough to
Right.
stand up for myself. And I
Right.
was hitching my wagon to people that I thought were better and funnier than me, but I was the one who could get things done. So I was like a really good pitcher, but I would let them knock it out of the park all the time. And I think the lesson
Wow.
that I'm learning at 55 is to unhitch my wagons and trust myself that I can do it
Yes.
by myself. But I have such a collaborative brain, I always want to hitch a wagon. I always want to work with people, but unfortunately, my track record hasn't been always the best at who I've hitched wagons to.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing that pattern now. I'm seeing the pattern of you're hitching your wagon to people who are very, very strong personalities, who you're quite happy to yes and to. But then when you do stand up and speak your truth or speak your voice or say no, they're so shocked and surprised. They're like, well, who the
Yeah.
fuck is this person? This isn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
And
do.
then,
I
and
sure
then,
do.
and then, yeah. So that's a lesson that I've been learning.
Yeah. And here's the thing. We don't know that until we see the pattern,
Hmm.
right? You could have seen that pattern at 20.
No, I don't. I didn't see it at 40.
Was there a moment, like I have sort of pillar moments, turning points of like, not today. Do you remember a moment where you
Yeah.
stood up for yourself and that felt right in your system as far as where you want to go to as a leader?
In each one of the scenarios, when I think of each of the wagons
Yeah.
that I hitched myself to, there was a turning point where I had to say no more. And
Yeah.
then eventually the relationship dissolved. And the tricky part has been going, well, I'm the common denominator. Am I the problem?
Okay.
Right? Like I'm trying to be
But
self-aware
yeah.
and go, am I the problem?
Yeah.
And really looking at each one of those scenarios and going like, what was my responsibility? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? But I think that what I've come away with is my responsibility is being too lackadaisical about my own needs and wants and
Right.
voice.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm too bend over backwards to make other people happy. And that is my fault. Like that
Yeah.
is my responsibility. If these things have happened a couple of times and I'm just trying to find the pattern,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't want to make it sound like every working relationship I've ever had with anybody has gone south. That's not true. I have a ton of ones
Yeah.
that have gone have gone fabulously.
Yeah.
But you tend to look at the ones where the mistakes were made and go like, okay, what was the common denominator there, and what was the pattern of behavior that I was bringing to the party?
I think that's really healthy though. I don't think I mean, it's really easy. I'm super good at blaming. So it's it's a skill of mine. But like to be able to go, okay, that's the part that I feel they're responsible for, or I'm like frustrated about. But then also, what can I do? Because I can't change anybody else. So I better look at myself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's tricky. So then do you now, like you said, you're now hitching your wagon to people that you feel like might be a healthier wagon? This analogy has gone too far.
All of the wheels go in the same direction.
Yeah, right, right. But then like there's other things that'll crop up though as leaders, right? Like what are you discovering now as yourself as a producer now that you've sort of learned that lesson?
Well, one of the things that I'm doing right now is there's a project that I have that I'm writing completely by myself. It's the discipline of get it done
Right.
and do it because this is a story you need to tell and you need to get it out of your body and get it out of your system and get it onto the page. And you're very passionate about it. And it's nobody else's fault but your own if you don't
Yeah.
get it done. Right. So
Yeah.
it's leading myself.
And nobody else is gonna do it.
Because I'm a great story editor. I can, take somebody else's script and tell you everything that's working and everything that needs to be tweaked and everything that could take it to the next level. And I can yes and ideas for other people till the cows come home. But it's okay, now this is just me. This
Yeah.
project is just me. So
Yeah.
how do you get it done?
And how do you?
You
What's that
just
system?
Oh, I have no system. I just beat myself up every day that I'm not writing. And
Yeah.
then
That's
and then it's like,
healthy.
well, but I'm doing this other job that's paying right now. So I
I
have to focus on
know.
that. You know what I
Oh my
mean? So
God. It's the only time your taxes get done when you need to do a second draft.
I got my taxes done so early this year
Shut your face. Humble
because
brag.
I'm procrastinating writing
Yeah,
the
right.
screenplay.
Yeah, right. Does your screenplay have anything to do with your adoption story?
It
I
is,
find this one of the most, and even like the last chapter about your mom with the scam and stuff, I just feel like your story is so intricate, complicated, and relatable.
yeah. I worked for 9 years on a TV version of the project called Given Up, and I'm finally giving up on that version of it.
Yeah,
It had also gotten so fictionalized and so away from my actual story of being adopted and then also giving a child up for adoption and all the reunions that happened. That was at the core of it, but everything else was fictionalized.
yeah. How did that happen? How did that diverge?
Uh, Network notes,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Suddenly
sometimes the
there's a
truth.
talking monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sometimes what I think is my fascinating true story, people are like, meh, that's not very interesting.
right,
Can we make it this?
right.
So it just through drafts and through, and then also just self-preservation as well. Like there's
Yeah.
some things that I don't want to, I was trying to make it a comedy. So,
It's such a great challenge, right? When we've got these dramatic things that you're like, but I'm a comedian.
yeah.
I don't want to make like that's not where my heart is.
Yeah.
Because for you, like it's always been comedy,
It's
right?
always been well, it's always been comedy. I've co-wrote one feature film that was a dramatic love story, but other than
Was
that,
that with Jonas? No,
yes, the
I haven't
burning
seen
season.
that
Yeah,
yet. But
yeah,
that
yeah,
seems to be also that you two are such comedians that
yeah. There was a
um
lot of levity to it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But yeah, the feature that I'm writing now it's more of a factual retelling of the story of my life and a lot of the coincidences that happened. And it's the screenplay is called I've Only Got 12 Good Stories because I jokingly repeat all of my stories. And they're all told, it's the stories of my life all told out of order. And the theme is basically is that there's one story that I can't tell, but I can't finish the movie until I tell that story. And it's the one story I can't tell.
wow.
Yeah. So
That's really exciting. Look, I can
yeah.
see it on your face. That's exciting. What's the thing that's motivating you and what's the thing that's stopping you right now?
The thing that's motivating me is I know these stories so well that to break them down into 12 chapters is very easy.
Yeah.
The thing that's difficult is the one story that I can't tell. It's literally the hardest story to tell is the one that is that stop. I know exactly, I see it in my mind. I know exactly how it's going to play out,
Yeah.
but it's really hard to put fingers to keyboards and write that story.
Yeah.
But it's also, I don't want this to be, a screenplay that is therapy, although it probably is in some way, but
Well, isn't
uh,
all art? I
it's an
mean,
all right, I
God,
know.
yeah.
So that'll be the toughest part of it is telling
Yeah.
that part of the story. I'm not going to go into more detail, but if I did go into more, when I do go into more detail and I tell people about it, it makes me emotional every time I tell it.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah, I get
yeah,
it. I get
yeah,
it. I
yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Have you ever thought about improvising it?
I've thought about writing it as a play, as
Yeah.
either a one-woman play or a 12-person play, where every chapter is a different version of me, but a different
Yeah.
actor playing me.
Yeah.
Um, But I think because I know how to write in television and screenplay like that's how my brain now thinks,
Yeah.
that to switch to a different genre would I think be a bit too, I would procrastinate even
Darn.
more.
Yeah. No, I feel like you're authentically a writer. I'm a writer by force. Like I
Right.
write stuff because I have to, and I often turn to improvising even on my feet. Like when Matt and I wrote that play, there were times that we
Ugh,
like this chapter, we don't know how to say it, and we would record it, and it would be brutal. Like it would be like raw and brutal, and we'd transcribe it and bring it to Kat the next day, and she'd be like,
hmm.
that's no fun. And then we massage. Like I think,
Yeah.
the more you
Yeah.
tell your stories out loud, the more.
Big Stuff was such a fantastic show. I haven't seen a piece of theater that I've talked more about, I think, in like the last 20 years.
Well,
Like,
thank you.
yeah. And it's so funny, like just even knowing what it was about, the grief was sitting in my throat. Like just knowing that this was a show about grief. Even now, just saying the word grief
Me
just
too,
chokes me up.
actually.
I
I
know.
just feel
And
like
it's just like it's like it as soon as I walked in that theater, it just my grief was sitting right here.
yeah,
And the care that you guys took with the audience, the warmth that you had from the second you walked in the theater was such a smart choice as well to just be so present and there and like you're in good hands. Hey, I know you. I don't know you. You're in good hands.
thank
Yeah,
you.
it was really
Yeah.
beautiful.
I have to say, one of the things that was we didn't know how important it was, but seeing people like you and Parker turn up, and I was like, oh, these are my peers, and it matters to me.
Yeah.
Like your support, your collaboration, in that sense too, means something to me. So yeah, there were things along the way that I didn't know would be the lessons that they
Right.
were the lessons, when you
Right.
talk about like the stories you can't tell,
Yeah.
there was tons of stories who were like, can we tell that story? And then we're like, well, we actually don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Like, have you
Yeah.
found, like, when, the phrase of like turning your broken heart into art, have you
Mhm.
found that your art has helped you in processing things?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because the story of me giving a child up for adoption when I was 18 was the biggest, hardest story I had for a
Yeah.
really long time until I started writing. And
Right.
then I often wonder what it's like for a musician who writes a song that's like, a beautiful breakup song, and then they have to play it every night, every night, every night, every night, and then it doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, I wonder how emotionally similar that is when you are writing about the things, the pain that you've had. Because with Given Up, the very, very first draft that I wrote of it, I wrote the weekend after my adopted mom, I found out that she'd passed away, who I'd been very, very estranged from. And I basically barfed out 60 pages of something. It wasn't
Yeah.
good, but I
Yeah.
barfed out, basically it was the story of how I met my birth mother, because at that point that's all I had done. I hadn't met my son yet. So I just wrote out that story. And it was like her passing allowed me to be able to write about her,
Right.
because I hadn't been able to before that. And then
Yeah.
writing that first version, then it was like, oh, I think there's something in this story. And I sent it to my friend Brent Haynes, who had been the head of the Comedy Network and had moved to MTV, and he gave me some really good notes. And then I did another 1 hour version of it, and then that's what got me into the CFC. And then that kind of
Right.
launched the TV career. But then the more I talked about the stories, and the more I kind of opened up that little box of grief that I'd been sitting on for a really long time, and just like let it out in little bits of steam, it helped
Yeah.
dissipate the grief.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I find like when I'm dealing with something that's emotional, it's like I can't expect to run a marathon tomorrow if I haven't been training. So I can't expect to tell a story that hits my heart in some way without telling it and figuring out, like, there's a part in our show that I couldn't get through rehearsals, like to the point of we might have to cut it because it's so emotional.
Mm.
And then there was just a tipping point where I was like, oh no, now I understand the makeup. I understand how to dip in emotionally and dip out to not lose it every
Right,
night.
right.
But I do think that came with practice. Like, the work that you've done with Given Up, but also like your other work too. Like, do you find that you kind of dip in and out of emotional
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, and that is the difficult thing with writing comedy.
Well, it can be so vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
Because it's so
Well,
true.
and it's funny because like even, a common thing that my friends always say to me is we'll be at a dinner party and everybody will be like telling hilarious family trip stories, and then I come in with one of mine and it's like I think it's funny, and but then it just like
I
destroys the
know.
room and everybody's like, Jesus Christ,
Oh my
Francis, what?
God.
I'm like, right?
It's
Wasn't that funny?
fantastic.
Like,
I know, but that's the way we process things. Like, I don't know, like you're doing a bunch of improv these days with your show that we'll talk about at the Girls' Night Out. Do you find that that happens on stage where you're like, here's something funny, and the rest of your cast is like, all right, there.
that only really happens if I think like with improv, it's like if I've got something locked and loaded in my brain and I'm like, oh, this'll kill, never
Yeah, that
does.
never
And
does.
I
I
think
know.
that's just never does.
I know.
It's just crickets. And then it's always the things that you just say because you're in the moment that end up like you're like, what? Why was that funny?
I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
I know. But then like it's so interesting because then I look at the career that you've had writing and then supporting other people's work because I see you do a lot of that with like with Steve Patterson and all, like you're the first person to put your hand up and say, I'll help you with that. That's what I think. Even with the writing that you've done with hosting, anybody that I
Mm.
know that has worked with you has said that I'll never work with anybody else as a host and
Oh,
writer because you empower them to have their own voice as opposed to you should say this.
right. What's interesting about that, and it's the superpower that has the strength and the weaknesses. Like a strength that I have is that I'm pretty good at writing in other people's voices.
Yeah, I agree.
And because I'm the one that's not on stage, I recognize what it's like to be on stage and have
Yeah,
words put in your mouth and it doesn't work. So I've been on both sides of it. But the other side of that superpower of being able to go, you're up front and I'm back here, but I've made it possible for you to knock it out of the park. The flip side of that is what I was talking about before, where I have hitched my wagon to people because I have thought I'm gonna set it up and you
Yeah.
knock it out of the park. So it's the yin and yang of that strength, right? Like I can
Yeah.
see now, oh, here's where it didn't serve me, and here's where I didn't recognize my own abilities
Right.
because I thought, oh, I'm not good enough, so I've got to be the good solid B so that the A can knock it out of the park. But where that has served me is I can write a monologue for Anthony Anderson at Banff, and he
Or
can
Alana
do,
Harkin,
or
Emma
Alana
Hunter.
Harkin, yeah, yeah, like or Steve, and they can knock it out of the park. Like even
Yeah.
writing on the debaters, one of my favorite things is because I know how to write in Steve's voice.
Yeah, there's something comforting about that too.
Yeah, but it's also recognizing like, oh, here's the yin and yang of that skill. And here's where it helps me, and here's where it has held me back. So just even being conscious of it has been a revelation.
Do you think that because of things like Girls' Night Out and the shows that you do in Mexico, which is also such a great, weird, like, also improv shows in Mexico, but like because of those things which let you be, it's my show, so that it's not as much of a need from those kind of contracts?
Yeah, well, Girls' Night Out is I'm cast. Janine Profeta is the main producer of that, and Alvira is the draw, and then Karen and I are there as part of, obviously we're good and we know what we're doing, and we're all of us together are an amazing unit who have
Totally, yes.
coalesced over the last few years. But I want to give props to Janine for the amount of producing work that she does because
Yeah,
that is like huge.
huge.
Um, but yeah, the leave it to cleavage stuff, like that is
Yeah,
definitely where I have that. I know what I'm doing. I'm good at this. Not only can I execute it so that I can, throw it up in the air, but then I'm the one who gets to knock it out of the park
yeah,
with Karen. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Or Christine
yes,
Leffa. Yeah. So it's
yeah.
that is where things have balanced out a little bit. And I think that's just age and wisdom and
Yeah, I think yes, I
experience.
agree. I just think that, as producer performers, because there are some producers that are happy to produce,
Yeah.
and there's some performers that are like, I will never produce.
Yeah, it's one of the great things about doing Leave It to Cleavage with Karen is she's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to do any of the producing. But then once we get down there, like we were in this really cute little theater called Art Vallarta, and it was pretty rustic. And we were like, well, let's make it a Christmas show. We kind of decided at the last minute. And we just like pulled out a bunch of
Yeah,
like
she's got a great
she's
vision.
got a
Yeah.
great visual to be able to make something look good in the moment. And I'm like, I wouldn't, I would like just put up some twinkle lights. I don't know what else to
Yeah.
do.
Twinkle
So
lights
we
go a
do,
go a long
they
way.
really do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we do have the strengths and weaknesses. But what works about that partnership too is that we're not stepping on each other's toes,
Right.
which is,
Yeah.
I think, what has sometimes happened is there's been in some of the partnerships I've had, there's been a lot of toe stepping.
Yeah. And that's just power. Gosh,
I
like that's just ego and power, which we all deal with. So I
know.
too,
Yeah.
like there's sometimes where I find myself actually taking a pause from a note that's been given and going, now is my ego flared up? Or is this actually something that I have to stand up for myself on?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And usually it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a hard, oof, that's such a hard decision to make in the moment and
Yeah.
to not react immediately and just to sit and think.
It
Like that's the,
usually makes my whole system afterwards just like vibrate.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
I'm learning with moments like that to trust my gut a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yes.
And I think my gut is getting more finely tuned as I get
Yeah.
older.
I
Of
agree.
like, no, that wasn't the ego. That wasn't the ego. That is me recognizing that that's not the direction that this thing needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I like that. I think that our guts are getting better with age too. We have these like Puerto Vallarta, Girls' Night Out, and writing your own show, but then you have corner gas in there where your job is to serve a whole other system, a whole other story, a whole other motor.
Yeah.
And I think you're probably really good at that from the work that you have done to support other people, but also you want to have a voice of your own. But that was a big gig for you and
Yeah, yeah,
award-winning
it
and
was.
yeah,
I was the first female to get a script on that show.
right.
On in
And
that
that was in
entire
1962.
Like
Can you believe it?
they did the entire live action series, and I think they had like Carolyn Taylor had been a story editor, but didn't
Yes.
have a script. And so that my animated script was the first one, first female that
Wow.
they ever had writing on it. And they were what was really nice was I think I was able to bring some perspective to the female characters and storylines to the female characters that they never would have brought.
Go figure. Weird, hey, that a woman would like really write well for another woman.
Oh,
That's so
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, live and
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah. Weird. So I had a lot of fun with that. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed learning the Brent had a real formula to get that many storylines for that many characters.
Yeah.
Every act had a certain number of scenes. And so your A storyline was going to have this many beats, your B storyline was going to have this many beats, and your runner was going to have this many beats. And then you had to just try and figure out like where are the characters and how can we serve all of them in a storyline. And then the fun of threading the three storylines together so that they all sort of bounced off each other by the end. I
Yeah.
loved the formula of it. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. You have one of the best combos of like brain and heart artists. You know,
Oh,
like so
thank
you
you.
do like the formula, but I think you also have a huge heart to contribute,
I
like
love no,
emotional.
teach me what the rules are. I want to learn what the rules are
Yeah.
so that I can play within them and
Yeah.
stretch them and move them. But I don't want to be reinventing a wheel on my
Yeah.
own. Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. So then how are you looking after your creative self these days?
It's been an interesting couple of years for a couple of different reasons. I went through a massive heartbreak
Yeah.
that was like just curb stomped. But then I also, it was in a romantic relationship. I lost a friend relationship right around the same time that was also creative. And those were two of my constants. And they were gone and they were not in the same city as me. So this was my constant.
Yeah.
Like I used to be on, either texting or on the phone or FaceTime with either one of these two individuals. And then when they were both kind of gone, it was like dealing with the grief of it and numbing myself with this thing.
Yeah. Which is one flip away from going from something that's going to help you numb to something that's going to break your heart.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so it happened over the course of like one of the busiest years I ever had. So I think for the first year of it, I was pretty distracted with other, like working on other people's projects. But there was also when we shot the film The Burning Season as well.
Yeah.
So, and then I really started to dive into doing more of the Mexico stuff. And then coupled with the fact that the industry has been a bit wonky
Yeah.
lately.
Like everything has been
Yeah,
wonky.
the
Yeah.
retraction of the amount of development that is happening and the amount of opportunities that are happening. So it's been interesting. But what I am doing, I'm finding that balance between the paying jobs that are story editing, story producing, developing, that kind of stuff, along with the stuff that I'm loving doing, which is creating shows down in Mexico, like Puerto
Yeah.
Vallarta. Puerto Vallarta, it's like,
How often do you go?
uh, I went down in December. I went down again in March. I'm going back again in November. So I'm trying to do twice a year. The
Yeah.
dream is to make it my third place. Like, how you're supposed to have a third place? Have you heard
No,
this
I
whole
don't.
theory?
I've never thought about that. But yes, okay, go on.
There's supposed to be home,
Yeah.
work, and a third place. So for some
Yeah.
people, it's like going to yoga every week, or you have your Tuesday night book club. But what's happening for people is home and work is the same place.
Yeah.
And then we don't have a third
A
place.
third. Oh, yeah.
So
I
I
can
work
see
from
you owning a tiny home in Mexico.
That's what I want to do. I want to have like, I'd love to be able to spend like 3 or 4 months of the winter down there with my dogs and do shows and teach workshops and be part of the community there. And what I've been doing is bringing a different kind of comedy down there that they don't have. It's such a gay friendly city, so there's a lot of entertainment that is geared towards drag or like that's the Freddie Mercury show or it's the Pink
Right.
show or it's a musical
Yeah.
tribute. But there's not a lot for the expats who live down there who don't want to necessarily pay $60 for a ticket every
Yeah.
time they're going to go see a show.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I've been nurturing. And that has been really, really fun.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. Plus the girls' night out stuff, like having the mix of the instant gratification of improv,
I
which I had put
know.
on the shelf for a really long time when I was really diving into television after the CFC. And now I'm realizing that having the balance of the instant gratification of improv and then the delayed gratification of writing.
If you
It's
get
like
gratification at all,
if you
but
get
yes,
gratification at all.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I
So
feel the
trying to
same
find the
way.
balance of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I need both for my muscles to feel limber as an artist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to wrap it up, but this isn't a very good wrap up question because it might open up a whole other thing. But I just want a little snapshot. Like when you get an idea for a show, give me like your first three steps. Because I think there's a lot of people with, oh, I have this great story. Like your life is a fucking great story. How do you then go, I'm gonna dive into putting this on paper?
They're kind of two slightly different questions because writing about your life is one thing that,
Yeah,
so I'm going to put that
that's
slightly
true.
to the side because
Okay.
one of the what I can talk about is my agent challenged me recently to something called the 100 Idea Challenge, where every day you write 5 log lines or something that looks like a log line, 5 show or movie ideas. And I had to
Love
submit them
this.
to her assistant. And you do it for, you can take the weekends off, but you basically have to do it until you have 100 ideas. And I did it all
Five
in
a
a day,
day.
5 a day. And what it does is it gets the recycled ideas that I can't get rid of
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
so my genre is always like woman who's just had her heart broken, who's got to start fresh again, or
Yes.
something about tiny homes, or something about rescuing dogs,
I
or you know what I mean? Like all of the things that I'm like,
Yes.
right what you know. So
Yes.
because by the time you get to like you're writing number 70, I was literally going through Spotify playlists and seeing titles of songs and going, does that give me an idea? And then I
Awesome.
would just start writing it. So then my agent reads them all and picks the 10 that she thinks has the most legs and tells me why. And some
Yeah.
of it is market driven. Some of it is like, this would be a good screenplay. This would be a good low budget Canadian feature. This would be a good workplace comedy. CBC is looking for this kind of repeatable, The Office type stuff.
Yeah.
This would be something for a streamer. And, and she would give me notes about, but you would want to maybe think about this and this and this. So
Great
we both,
agent. Oh my gosh.
yeah, she's amazing. Carrie Ball at Meridian. And then my job was to take 5 of those and then flesh them out a little bit more. So to take them from that 1 line or 2 lines to a one pager. I have been slow at that. I will admit I am behind, but I did just take one of them and it was an idea that I basically came up with the title first called Don't Be a Dick. And I was like, oh, it's a story about somebody who's gets forced not to be a private detective. And that's kind of all I had.
Yeah.
And then from there, I just started thinking, you just kind of start playing. You just kind of start
Yeah, I love
writing it
it.
out. So then I was like, well, why would somebody not be a private detective? And then the world just kind of starts to unravel itself. It's a little bit like sculpting, right? Like you get a big thing of clay. It is a blob. It is nothing until you put your hands in it, and it's going to be nothing for quite a while. But then you just keep working it until you suddenly see the art that is been sitting in it the whole time. And so I ended up writing like a 6 page pitch doc for it in 2 days because it just kind of was like, oh, this is exciting and this has legs.
Yeah.
And now I have to move on to the next one.
I love this exercise so much.
Yeah, it's really fun. Yeah.
It also we've worked together in different capacities, but I remember the last time we worked on the
Oh, yeah,
heist
yeah.
idea. But it was such a pleasure because you come from such an improv mind of saying like it's a yes and. Oh, what would make them a private investigator? Yes
Hmm.
and this, yes and then what and then what? But you're such a an exploratory artist that you can see how it grows that way. I
Hmm.
love that.
Yeah.
So now you've got your 6 pages. You just have to
Yeah.
write it, produce it, pitch it, screen it. Everything's great. Easy peasy.
Yeah. No big deal. That'll be on the air in
Yeah.
17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already getting me remade, I
Yeah.
think.
Exactly. With
Yeah.
Jason Priestley.
That's
Yeah.
right.
But that is something that I've been enjoying lately is like going back and looking at some of those ideas.
Love that.
And my agent was, to her credit, was like, if you don't like the ones that I've picked, pick the ones that you like and flesh that. And
Yeah, because it'll also shine light
yeah,
on
yeah,
that, right? Like, why didn't she choose this one? I
yeah,
really loved
yeah,
this one.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. We have to wrap up. As I said, this is never as short as it should be for the editors, but I love speaking to you. I love any chance I get a chance to hang out with you. I'd love to
I
be on stage with
mean,
you and
come
do some
on.
improv.
I know we've tried to make that happen a couple times, and then I usually have like my dog is sick or something. But And it's funny because you are one of these people who we've lived in the same town for 12 years now,
I
and
know.
we think we've seen each other like twice. And I blame honestly,
I
I blame the
know.
Don Valley. I blame the fact that you're on the west side,
I blame the
I'm on the
Don
east side.
Valley. Well, look, there's also time and place, but I sure appreciate
Well,
your
thanks.
presence. Like, even if we're not working together, I feel like, that you're somebody that I could call on for creative advice and for, like I definitely have your name when I talk to people about
Oh, you're
writers. So
lovely.
it's an easy
Oh, that's
peasy
very
for
sweet.
me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me give you a wrap up
Oh, okay.
firecracker questions. Here we go. I know people get excited, but there's really no urgency. Fill in the blank. To me, a firecracker is
Explosive.
what is something that you haven't done, but you know you have to do?
The Camino Francis Trail
Yes, agreed. Me too. Me too.
and van life for a year.
I mean, van life's overdue. Who's kidding
Yeah.
who? Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something that I can't wait to see that story
Yeah. Yeah.
unfold. What's something that people don't know about you?
I don't like cilantro, but I feel like everybody knows that.
I mean,
Um,
I didn't. I have to say that I'm like cilantro, that some people think I'd leave a bad taste in their mouth.
I like to say that I'm the cilantro of people. You either really fucking love me or you
Yeah,
really fucking
I
hate
do
me.
too. It's okay. Do you have another one? Do you want to use cilantro?
Uh,
Final answer?
let's go cilantro. I can't think of
Okay.
anything else. I'm such an open book about everything in my life that I feel like I have no secrets because I've just used everything for fodder.
I know, but that sort of goes back to what we were talking about. Like you were early on very open and authentic about your adoption story, and about your adoption story with your son. And I feel like it fortified your truthfulness muscles. Do you know what I mean? Like when I hear you write, even like if it's social media or whatever, I feel like your voice is very authentic.
Mm, thank you. That's the right way to know.
Yeah, yeah. Who is somebody that you want to shine a light on? We've talked about the Girls' Night Out folks, but is there anybody else that you're like in a firecracker?
I love this question because we used to do this on Canadian Star System, which was a podcast with Steve Patterson that I
Yeah.
wish that we were doing in the pandemic, and I wish we could have done more of, but then people got busy. Um, I want to shine a spotlight on Karen Parker
Yes, let's do that.
because she's in the process right now of learning about the skill of writing and all that is entailed in it. And I've had her in writing rooms with me before as a writing assistant, and we like to call her Button because she comes from that Second City brain where
Yeah,
she knows story so intimately, but in very short, tight versions of it. So now she's learning how to expand it into longer form,
yeah,
but she's so inherently good at story and knows what the moment needs.
yeah. Agreed,
Yeah.
agreed. She's also one of the most detailed performers I've ever seen. Like on
Mm,
stage, she's not a fat stroke character. She's a fine stroke character. Like from her accents to her body
yeah.
language. Yeah, she really is. So
Yeah.
yeah, double down on the Karen Parker.
She's also somebody that, our wagons are hitched together in a very healthy way, which is delightful.
Yeah, that's a good wagon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
a good
see
wagon
that.
hitch too. Yeah. And it's a very equitable wagon and the wheels are all going in the right direction and the boards are solid. But she's also the most empathetic and lovely human, but with just the right amount of fuck you edge. I love
Yeah,
it.
love it.
You know what I mean? Like a heart, she'll feel terrible for a chair left on the side of the road, but then we'll also be like, fuck the person who left the chair.
I love that. I love that. Yes, agreed, agreed. What makes you feel powerful?
Acts of service,
Nice.
being useful,
Yeah,
helping get a dog from Puerto Vallarta to their new owner
I love that
and
story.
being that tiny little cog in a wheel that made the whole thing happen. That
I
makes me feel
know.
powerful.
Which you've done, I feel like you've done that more than once too.
Oh,
Like
I've
it's
done it
not
a
just like,
bunch. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I've done it a
it's not just
bunch.
like the one victory.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, if your life was a movie, what would be a climactic turning point for you that sure changed your life forever? Besides, of course, your adoption.
Oh, I my favorite genre of movie is like a woman or girl surviving on her own. I used to love Clan of the Cave Bear or like it's the moment where the woman figures out how to do the shit herself.
Yeah.
Like build the house or
Yeah, yeah,
fix the
yeah, yeah.
car or
Buy yourself
uh
flowers. Uh-huh.
yeah yeah
Yeah.
yeah
Yes.
yeah or
Yeah.
fight the bear or
Yeah.
survive the winter or find the food or,
Yeah.
fix the broken leg.
So what was your fight the bear?
I think I'm in the middle of it now. It's the figuring out how to do shit by myself
Yeah.
without being reliant on shitty, mediocre dudes.
Isn't that so funny? Because I just see you as such an independent person. Like you live on your own, you do things on your own, and yet there's always this tie, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. I love that this is your era of fighting the bear.
Yeah. Fighting the goddamn bear with my hands.
Final question is advice to a younger you.
Oh, advice to a younger me. Uh, stand up straight and don't be so self-conscious about your body. And stop making decisions based on whether or not boys like you.
Yeah. Stand up straight alone says
I mean,
everything.
just
Like posture.
my damn
Oh,
posture.
yeah,
It's
I
just
know.
like, oh, I
Oh,
know.
I just cracked 6 muscles that I didn't know I had. What an absolute pleasure to talk with you. I already want to
Thank you.
plan when we can see each other next.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we'll do something. But thank you,
Okay.
thank you, thank you. This has been so great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's fun to be able to talk about myself.
Right? I know some people are like, ugh, I feel like I just talked about myself. I'm like, that's the podcast. That's how it goes.
It's fun.
You're a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks,
my friend.
buddy.
For more about what Diana is doing in our community, go to dfrancis39 and follow along at Instagram. And while you're there, why don't you go to Firecracker DPT? Follow us, find out all the information. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to our newsletter, firecrackerdepartment.com, because we get like ticket discounts, we get ticket giveaways, we have information about our upcoming events first at our newsletter. So go on over firecrackerdepartment.com and subscribe now. Our Firecracker Department podcast team is me. I'm your host and producer, Naomi Snieckus. Also, head producer is Pau Carranza. Assistant producer, Sarah Nuccio. Head editor is Jennifer Rowley. Assistant editor is Sara Gilani. And our head video editor is Laura Agudelo. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for making the Firecracker Department podcast extraordinary and sharing these voices and these stories with the world.